everyone. Welcome to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast. I'm Melissa Albers.
And I'm JJ Parker. This podcast is for seekers, seekers of happiness and joy, seekers of a centered approach to success in life, seekers of their true, authentic selves.
Get ready for some real talk on everything from anxiety, emotions, and habits to love, compassion, and forgiveness. We know you'll be challenged and enlightened by this conversation. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in.
All right, we are entering political season. It's
There's my mature, intelligent response.
A presidential election in November, so
right.
all of the campaigning and ads and everything is about to kick into high gear.
And do you feel like it actually stopped at all?
Whether it
like
stopped
normally we get these
or
big
I
lulls.
just ignored it, I'm not sure. It's one of those two.
Well, I think we share a lot of that opinion. But I just feel like with everything that's been going on, it has gotten more and more amped up than ever before. People are a lot more emotional than ever before. And I feel like the ads and the rhetoric is way more prevalent than it usually is, in March of a presidential year.
So I in full disclosure, I don't watch the news and I don't go on social media. So I have constructed myself.
Do you read
books?
The
No,
news?
I don't read the news.
Do you read the news? You don't read any highlight news reels or anything? Okay.
No. So I actually purposely try to keep myself like fairly isolated or, like isolated from the news. And not because I don't care, but
no, I understand. Oh my gosh, I totally understand.
I'm very sensitive to it. So
yeah, me too.
The other week I was on a ski trip with my buddies, and we were all staying in a little condo together. And one of the guys had the news on all the time. When we were in the condo, the news was on.
Really?
So when he'd get back from skiing, he'd turn it on. It was on in the morning. It was, you know what I mean? It was on all the time. And it was just for him, it was just the background noise, right? And I don't think if he was watching it or not, but it really hit me hard that and I don't even know if it was left, if it was right, I don't know what political stance it had.
You don't?
I wasn't really
because you just were checking out.
I was trying to not pay that much attention to it. But the thing that I did notice about it was the way they constructed headlines, the way they architected these segments. Holy cow, did it grab you and without really even knowing what it was about, it was provoking emotion in me just in the way that it was presented.
That's a great phrase. That is such a good,
really
great phrase.
Powerful. This is a really powerful medium.
Yes, 100%. And in full disclosure, what I do is I will listen to the local news occasionally. Once in a while, I will listen to the national news, maybe once a week or twice a week. And then I almost sometimes, if it's not particularly bad, I'll get lulled into thinking, oh, okay, I can go back to my habit. This is what I do when I'm getting dinner ready, or I put this on. However, I've become hypersensitive. I've always been sensitive, but hypersensitive to those tones and those stories and the images particularly. So what I did is during COVID, when it was just a constant stream of how awful everything was, what I did is I decided I was going to curate some newspapers that will send an email that will give you the top 5 stories of the day. And so I specifically chose the Washington Post because that's very liberal. I also chose CNN. And then I chose Fox, which is very not liberal. Because I figured, well, I can control how I look at that. And then I can decide for myself. It was way too much. I recognized even when I would open my eyes in the morning and I would grab my phone and I would just think, oh, I'm going to, quote, inform myself. It was horrible. So now I go through these big, long dry periods where I just simply can't do it. I don't want to. I don't want to.
We had a discussion. So with one of the guys that was was our friend Chris, and he served in the military. And there was a story about a military story. So one of the guys said, "Hey, Chris, is what the media showing about these like military activities, like how true is it? Like how accurate is it?" Which I thought was a really great question.
That's a really good question, especially for someone like Chris, because he is so good at being global.
Yeah, and Chris was there. Stuff. I mean, he was in Iraq for, what, 2.5 years or something? And he goes, yeah, I was there. I would drive the media around. Like, he would drive the press around. The press would come on convoys with them. So, you know, to me, this is firsthand experience.
The horse's mouth. Nothing personal.
Yeah, and
Chris.
he's like, yeah, I don't trust any of it because all of it gets put through a particular lens, and so he goes, you know, I would so one of the guys said, hey, Chris, so then, if none of the accounts of what is actually happening are, you know, kind of true or accurate, they all get torqued around a little bit. Where would you get your news? Where do you get your news? And Chris, you know, his first answer was, well, I got a buddy that's still in the military. So I was like, well, we all don't get that option. And just kind of like you, he said, hey, it's like a variety of sources. You have to have multiple voices, multiple perspectives, and you need to take all those, put them together, and it probably lands somewhere close to the truth, somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And so that was his answer on that, which I thought was interesting. But again, it's like a time thing. Like I frankly don't have that much time to gather a bunch of different sources and attempt to reconcile the story together for myself.
Even if you get the top 5 with 3 different perspectives and it takes you 6 minutes, I can promise you still would not have air quotes time, because it's an energy drag. So what I think is really interesting is we are now in a situation where all of these ads, campaigns, stories are amping up. There's so many more, and it's a steady stream. And while you and I and a lot of people like us may check out, there are a whole host of people that don't check out. And we're in partnership with them, right? There's a lot of people that are really triggered, very strongly opinionated, and not in the same way that you are or that I am.
I heard this phrase,
and that
political fatigue. People will experience political fatigue, which is this idea that there's so much information coming at you that it's very tiring. Like you said, it's an energy drain.
It's an energy drain, and it makes you feel bad. It's not a topic that feels good. And so it makes you feel bad. And so even with that, I think that takes even more energy because it doesn't feel good.
One of the reasons I have this this very firm boundary around the media comes from when I was in college. Like, you know, I went to art school, so we learned, you know, we would learn in film class and different media classes. You know, the goal as an artist is to provoke and manipulate emotion through these mediums. And I had this media class, and we had this book called Channels of Discourse Reassembled. And what it did was, is it broke.
I'll get right on that.
No, everyone else can skip it. I'll just give you
grief.
the cliff notes here. But it broke down television, it broke down news media, and it really illustrated how you can use those mediums to manipulate people's opinions.
Yeah.
And I read that book
Yes.
and I was like, holy crap, I do not want to be near that. Even though I was learning how to do it, I was like,
in an artistic, creative way.
I was like, I don't want to be manipulated by that. And it was very clear that it was easy to use television as that medium. And I'm not saying like everything's evil. This is I'm coming off a little Gen X-y right now, where distrust all institutions.
I don't think you are. I don't think that that's what you're saying. It's not what I hear you saying at all. I think that we all do grapple with, how do we get through this season? How do we do this and still maintain, like, how do we maintain our relationships? Like even in my family, one side of my family is very liberal. The other side of my family is the complete opposite. So just family events, the narratives, and the how people will get so ingrained and embroiled in a particular perspective. It's when you don't want to be that way, because I'm not that way and I will step back from that. But when you watch it, it's sort of like, wow, it's like something comes over people and they can't pull out. They can't pull out of it. They're just all in, angry or highly opinionated. And if you don't see it the way that they do, you are so stupid, right? Like that kind of thing.
So,
and that's the thing I think that we're navigating. We need to figure out how to navigate this for the next several months.
All right. So I got a couple questions. So first, what do you think, and maybe in your experience or just what you've seen in other people, how can you kind of identify that you're experiencing like political fatigue?
I feel like by your actions, if you start turning away from things that you normally didn't.
That's like almost like a depression, like you're getting depressed.
It's just too hard. You just find that it's just too hard. And I think just taking an inventory of how you're thinking about other people. Are you in real strong judgment?
That's a good call. Yeah.
Because usually, this oddly, I actually did a little research on this topic before we got it. Not in the same way you do. It's not organized and stuff. It's on 2 little Post-it notes. For real. But one of the things that I was like really interested in and just looking at different sites, they talked about people's interest in these political sides creates anger. But they said under anger is fear. And you and I have talked about this a million times. There's only 2 sponsoring thoughts, love or fear. And in this case, they're saying politics brings out a lot of anger in people, which is actually based with fear underneath. And it's fear of being misunderstood, fear of being shamed, fear of being persecuted, and then in some bigger scenarios, fear of being physically assaulted, deported, or bullied. Like, these are really core things, right, that are going to elicit big, huge reactions.
Definitely. Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing to think of if that's what our, the biggest challenge with this is, that we become full of rage or anger, and it's all based in fear.
You have a shorter fuse, you're more anxious, maybe sleep less, you have mood changes. Those are all those are all
those are good
symptoms of maybe that you're experiencing like political fatigue. So what are some things you think you can do about it? You got that on your sticky note?
Funny you should ask. Did you just see I put my reading glasses on? I look fancy, don't you think? Thanks for noticing. Appreciate it. Okay, I got a couple. You ready for this one? These are really hard. Okay. They're very hard. You might want to write it down. The first one is listen to others. Oh, that's weird. I don't know if I could do that. I guess I should not even be the least bit humorous in this because it's such a serious topic. But listen to others. And the biggest thing is we are in a lack of compassion. You know, especially during this topic, it's like there's a lack of compassion. So being able to listen to others more openly.
Yeah. The thing I'll say about listening to others, I think we had talked about this. We had an episode a long time ago where we talked about this. Just because you listen to somebody else and try to understand their perspective doesn't mean that you're agreeing with them. You don't have to agree with them.
Exactly.
But seeking to understand doesn't mean that you are agreeing. It just means that you're seeking to understand. And in my experience, when I talk to someone who has a different opinion than I do, it often strengthens my opinion or helps me understand myself better and why I think that way.
100%.
So when I come up with to someone with a difference of opinion, a different way of seeing the universe, I always try to really lean into that, because the result for me has always been understanding myself better, not the opposite.
Yeah. And maintaining the relationship with the other person, maybe even strengthening that relationship. And again, you're right. We don't have to agree, but we just have to listen. I was listening to a Wayne Dyer. I can't remember if I mentioned this a couple of podcasts ago, but I know I did, but it is right here again. And his like tenet to personal development, like he has like 8 tenets to that or whatever. And this one is one that he repeats all the time. And you go on YouTube and find him, and he's always saying this. And it is, be open to everything and attached to nothing. And it's the same exact thing right here. Be open to everything. Listen to what people say. Be curious about what they're saying, but don't attach to it in any way, shape, or form. Don't attach positively or negatively to it. It's harder said than done, but I think that feels really good. That seems like such a wonderful.
And we talked about this the other week, where we kind of challenged where our beliefs were coming from, and I think a lot of political stuff comes from our beliefs or our belief systems that we've grown up with. And I'm not saying like right or wrong, but sometimes it's a good opportunity to say, do I actually still believe this, or am I just repeating some things my parents said?
I agree. Yeah. Or that all of my side of the family says. Yeah. Here's another one I really, really liked. Don't aim to shame. So we get mad because people are not on our bandwagon, and we want to make them wrong in any way, shape, or form we can. It's just human nature. And so instead of shaming them, be more curious, ask them more questions, and also question your own perspectives to them so that they can question your perspectives too. It just creates more conversation. It's like you might say something like, or I might say something like, I always feel like when we're talking about stuff like whatever, pick the biggest political topic. I always feel like when this happens, I immediately have a feeling of dread, or I really don't feel trusting of what they're saying. It's just sharing what your perspective is in a way that you're challenging yourself in it. And it makes you much more approachable, which will then also make the other person be more approachable to you. You know, that's the whole perspective piece, I think, that we need to always keep in mind.
You said a very disarming word, which was I feel. And so many conversations are much more aggressive than that. And I think you can, if you share with somebody, hey, I'm feeling uneasy, uncertain, or I'm feeling very passionate about something, but using the word like I'm feeling is really helpful.
Or, I agree. It's a lot more approachable. And then I'll just share this other one because I think it's really good. Like there's so many things about this that we cannot control, which I think also creates fear because we just feel so out of control in the scenario or in the situation or what's going to happen. Nobody knows who the political guy or gal's going to be, and everybody's so scared it's not going to be the one they want. But I really like this. It was monitor my thoughts and feelings during conversations. We have total control over that so that we can try to stay relaxed. It's like monitor when you feel you're getting triggered. And you and I talk about this with the self-awareness journey all the time.
I had that one too. I wrote, understand your own reaction.
Yeah. So monitoring when you can feel it starting to bubble up, you start feeling, ooh, this doesn't feel good. Ooh, I'm collecting stamps right now. I'm going to cash this book in as soon as they stop talking.
Well, and right there is a decision you get to make. Is you can choose to actually just walk away from that conversation.
Yes.
Especially if it's at a in an environment that's like not really suitable or appropriate to have that conversation, like at work, at your kid's basketball game with some random parent
at a restaurant table.
Right, like so there's lots of
when you've just
like
ordered
the wrong
the
environment, the wrong time, the wrong place to have those conversations, or it is the right place and you just don't want to get involved in that conversation. Just excuse yourself. Exactly. It's totally okay.
Yeah. Actually, you are better at that than me. Although I feel like I'm getting better in my maturity, in my development.
Oh.
But yeah, just making, and I always love the phrase, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
Oh, I love that.
I mean, this is it, right? It's like you hear people going on and everybody's getting all amped up and you don't agree at all. But at that point, you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
Some other ideas. I talked about my boundaries on media. Just taking an inventory on how much time are you actually spending, kind of receiving or taking in political media, and then make a choice. Like, is this too much? Is this not enough? Like, I'm probably on the not enough side, but is it too much? How much time do you want to spend on this? Maybe every day.
I just heard you judging yourself a little bit. I don't think there's any space for that at all. I think you need to just you're doing exactly what you need to do. It's like you're doing things to take care of your own psyche and so that you're a good, productive human being. And I want to do the same thing. And I also feel like I had that idea, like I'm going to just follow these top 5 emails for a little while. And I thought that was going to be the answer for me, but it wasn't. And so I'm okay with that. Like I will continue to search for ways that I can be as informed as I want to be and disinformed as I want to be.
Yep.
Right?
And then just a detox. Like even especially now that it's kind of early in everything, like, right before you go vote, you probably want to be well informed. So go inform yourself. But in March, in April, in May, take a week off. Just say, hey, you know what? I'm not putting the news on this week, and we're going to see.
Because it's a slog fest. All it is a slog fest.
And we'll see how you feel. Just do a detox, see how you feel. It might make you more anxious. I don't know. But that's how I was thinking. The other thing that I know, I'm going to talk like real small scale things. In my experience, I'm on the board of a couple like very small nonprofits. And sometimes we'll get like someone from the community who's all up in arms about something that's happening around our little lake community, right?
Right.
And I kind of attribute that to the same kind of reaction. People have the same reaction, but on a bigger scale around bigger issues. But here, like, government works best on the local level. Whenever I have to take a call from an irritated resident about something that's going on, I always listen, and then I say, wow, it sounds like you're really passionate about this. We would love for you to run for the board. Get involved. Like, I love that you're so passionate. Come join us. And you know what they do every single time? Boom, gone. Right?
I'm busy that day.
So that's
I just wanted you to know.
Not saying like, call everybody out, but the thing is, get involved. That's the thing that's irritating to me actually is you're passionate about a policy, something happening in politics. I think getting involved and getting actually closer to it is a really great way to keep your perspective about things.
I agree. And also, you know what else it does? It keeps your emotions in check. Because if you're looking just someplace to drop off all your stuff because
right.
you've been collecting it in the back of your car, maybe that's not the right way for you to feel really good about yourself anymore. Maybe it's not about collecting stuff and giving it to somebody else in a big bucket.
And then my other thing that I like to think about across the board on pretty much everything is, what can you actually control?
Yes. So good. Yes. And you can control yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions.
Much beyond that,
it.
I don't have a lot of control over a lot of other things. So.
Yeah, so true. I hope this has been helpful for people, because I do think people are really tired.
Yeah, and, frankly, I think everybody wants to make sure that, we have good leaders in our country. We're making good policy decisions. All of this is really good stuff, and it's like the foundation of our democracy. And
exactly.
And we do want everyone to be informed, and we do want everyone to go out and vote and have a voice and be heard and all of that stuff. Let's just make sure we're doing it in a way that is keeping us mentally healthy.
And connected with each other as much as possible in a positive way.
Did you enjoy this episode? Please go to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review so others can discover it as well.
Growing self-awareness is a lifelong journey, and there's always further to go. And it's better when we're all in it together. Please think of someone you know who could benefit from hearing today's conversation and share this episode with them. We can't thank you enough for listening. Until next time, happy exploring, seekers.